A console rivalry doesn't really exist for the NBA 2K series. Now, EA Sports hasn't released an NBA game since Live 10. Now, despite no push from competition, 2K team really didn't get lazy. Over the last 3 years, the series has just really strengthened its hold on the title with the best basketball simulation available. This year, the 2K team really kept the gaming community on the edge of their seats with solid marketing for 2K13. Now, I did have a problem with the fact that they kept details about association mode all but mute until a week before release, and I thought that the Dream Team and Team USA should have been probably announced during the Olympics, but aside from that, the information rollout was awesome. The team used developer insight videos to unveil features, while Ronnie 2K and LD 2K filled in the gaps that they could on Twitter. So, had the developer insights, people played the demo, the game has been out for 2 or 3 days at this point. It's time, if you don't know already, to find out if this game is truly as amazing as it looks. The 2K team put in some noticeable work on the face renders of nearly every NBA player. Players like Chris Paul, Dwayne Wade were obvious targets as they really needed a ton of improvement from NBA 2K12. Almost all of the reworked faces are noticeably improved, with a couple of exceptions. Now, this is an aspect of the game where you'll never really satisfy everyone, because it really is a matter of preference and style. The most important thing is that each of the players is recognizable when you see their faces on the screen. As you can see, as I flip through a few of the examples of the reworked faces. And from the neck down, there aren't many changes from the NBA 2K12 models. They weren't poorly done in the past, but the time has come for players to have varying wingspans to be represented in the game. Arm length is a huge physical attribute and a factor in basketball, and this is something that should be depicted in basketball games. Now, in terms of tattoos and shoes, and yes, the series is coming back, the player tattoos are replicated again this year, but there's a few omissions. Like J.R. Smith doesn't have that ridiculous neck, Young Money neck tattoo that he has. There's a few other smaller details that were omitted. But this isn't really a major deal for me. I mean, I realize that, some gamers are sticklers for this type of detail, and, I don't blame you. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not really a reason for me to down this whole aspect of the game. Maybe, 2K is trying to tell JR that he needs to get that off his neck. The shoe game is really good in NBA 2K13, and there are varying textures and a ton of brands and models to choose from. Under Armour and Spalding jumped in this year. So that aspect of it is awesome. And you look at the arenas and the lighting. The arenas look great in the game. The lighting is adjusted to emulate what a TV broadcast in that particular building would look like. The floors are done well, so you can see the textures of the parquet floor in the Celtics arena, because they don't have a license to call it TD Bank Garden, and it looks totally different from that of the other arena floors. There are a few differences like this with other arenas, but it really shines through on the parquet. You can see it with the player models and the just great arena renders, period. So this is pretty sharp aspect. Let's talk about animations though. Now, beyond the facial renders and changes, you might just look at still shots of 2K13 and just be like, this looks like 2K12. But you really can't see it until you see it in motion. The dribble moves and the animations are fluid. You can chain moves together seamlessly. You can almost never see a sequence that looks unnatural though. Now, some of this is a product of the improved physics engine, which makes the action look even more fluid. And you can really see the improvements in the collision detection. Now, those are just examples that jump right out at you, but it's the small additions to the animations package that make an impact too. Because there's several new subtle things that add personality to each individual player. You got defenders that fall to the ground after they get crossed over. You got players rolling off the backs of defenders as they try to get in position for a rebound. And you also have new dribble animations, and you even get players checking their face for blood after hard fouls and arguing calls. It may not seem like a big deal, but it really does add to the overall visual appeal. So that's something you really definitely want to check for. Now, the dunks look great. The layups look great, sharp passes, really crisp, and the dribble moves are awesome too. And some of the players are 1-foot leapers and others are 2-foot leapers, and that's represented in the game too. It really adds a nice bit of realism and, like I said, even more individuality to each player. So more and more of the signature movements have been added in too. Rondo, he cuffs the ball. Derrick Rose has the hop and the explosion. All of these things add to just the realism look. There are some instances with other players that'll make you say, man, he does that in real life, but Rondo and Rose kind of really jumped out at me. I mean, there's a few slight misses on facial renders and the omission of like ridiculous tattoos, but that's just minor to me. I'd like to see some varying arm length soon, but that doesn't kill this overall visual package. There's a lot to like about the way this game looks. The animations are top notch. The player models are like far from poor. So visually, the game isn't perfect, but it's real solid. The gameplay now, the control stick really is going to determine how much you enjoy this game. If you're looking at the controls, it can be a little bit intimidating, but it's not like you have to master these before you can actually play the game. The basics are pretty much the same. You got the exception of the advanced dribble moves being executed with the right stick, and holding the left trigger or the bumper if you're playing with PS3 turns the right stick into the shot stick. That's the basic thing you need to remember. Now it does take some getting used to, but you don't have to worry about feeling like you just completely can't play the game as soon as you pick up the sticks. If you played the demo, then you kind of know what I mean. Now, we all like to throw it down and flush it and create the highlight reel play, but dunking is something that you got to get used to. When you go into the bucket, if you want to go strong, you got to remember one key rule. You got to hold the left trigger and the right trigger at the same time, or the L2 and the R2 button on PS3 while you're either moving the shot stick or hitting the X button. That is how you pretty much throw down the nasty slams. So mastering a good number of these control stick moves, that's kind of my goal to shoot for, and it should be yours over the next couple months if you really want to get good at the game. Now, but within an hour, you should be at least sharp enough to thoroughly enjoy the gameplay. Now, speaking of that, the gameplay is solid. This is the best aspect of the game. The quality begins from the moment one of your players is controlling the ball. You can feel the difference when you're being guarded by bigger players, and there's still a lot of control over the player movements. The physics, which I mentioned before, they're just pretty much just as improved with the players, but that's not just with them. It's the live ball feel that you have as well. That is enhanced. Now, when the ball is deflected, blocked, or just caroms off the rim for a rebound, there's a lot more life to the rock. Passing the ball is a lot better. And the directional passing especially is improved. You can finally depend on that as like a real way to move the ball. In previous versions, I felt like I kind of had the icon pass everything. Not this year. Now, that said, the defenders, they do get their hands on more passes than they did before, but the good thing about it is it's realistic when it happens. And that's pretty much the main theme of the gameplay period, is just realism. And the speed difference between point guards and bigs is distinct enough for the little man to pretty much beat the big guy to the hoop in most instances. Now, there are some big men, though, you got to realize this, that have great lateral movement, like Dwight Howard, Joakim Noah, Anderson Varejao. Those guys, that's what makes them so good defensively on the pick and roll, because they can pretty much stay with a lot of guards for that little short period of time. Now, again, that's another hint of authenticity in the game. But this is a video game, so the action isn't, you don't want it to be like you watching a Tim Duncan instructional video. You want some moments of flair. So you got the alley-oop plays in there. That adds a complete new dimension. Now you can throw passes to yourself off the glass. You can even pick who's going to get the alley-oop. So you don't just hit, the X and the A button and just goes to the closest man. You can actually move the directional stick to aim it to who you want to go to. So that's a lot of control over the passing. That's just one thing with the passing. Now you can actually control when you're going to throw a bounce pass as well, which is huge. So now this physics engine, though, this is going to come into play, because if you throw a bounce pass and it gets deflected, it's going to turn into a turnover. So the gameplay enhancements now, they're not just related to what you do with the controller. The AI is also improved. So players run more crisp plays than they did before, and they play more like themselves. You got guns like Danny Granger and Michael Beasley going to shoot the ball at all costs, and you got guys that going to look to pass first. The computer also plays at a much faster tempo. I never played a basketball game before that made me have to get back on defense until now. They will run it down your throat if you don't get back. to me, this is clearly the best gameplay ever in a basketball video game. At this point in the genre and on this generation of consoles, I really don't know if it can get much better from a gameplay standpoint. I really don't have any complaints. Jay-Z is all over the presentation of this game. 2K has always been a master of presentation from a sports standpoint, but bringing Jay-Z in brings a little bit more of a hip-hop flavor to it. But if you like Jay-Z, you'll probably like that. If you don't, you probably won't. But it's not as though he's in like every song, even though he's in quite a few. Myself, I particularly care for the Nas, The World Is Yours, Rakim, or Eric B. and Rakim, I Ain't No Joke, as well as the Coldplay inclusion into the soundtrack. So those are my favorites, but I don't have a problem with the Jay-Z aspect either. From a commentating standpoint, from pure basketball sound and presentation, it's still tight, but the commentating itself, I think, has fell off a bit. This year, there are far more instances where great plays deserve more hoopla, yet they get ignored, and then like really regular types of dunks and plays kind of send the commentators into an uproar. That didn't used to happen before, but it's happening this year. Also, the conversational value is still there, so you still get like the players' stories and that type of narrative that they give you, but it's something about it's just not quite as tight as it was before. Now that said, it's still better than almost every other sports commentating aspect of a game in any other, the genre period. Probably no other sports game is still as good, but it's still a little bit less than what it was before. In terms of the visual presentation, the menus, the camera angles, and replays, I like it. I like the variety of broadcast camera angles. I'm a sucker for the broadcast camera angle because I want the game to look like it does on TV. So I like the fact that each arena has its own camera, and it even has its own separate type of lighting. From a YouTuber standpoint, I don't like that you can't take that orange circle off when you're doing a replay. It really messes with montages, so I really wish they'd take that off, but it's a small thing that probably like only 1% of the gaming community even cares about. Now, I did hear some gripes. I saw in the IGN review, the cat that did it, Ryan McCaffrey, said he hated the menus. I really don't see the issue, to be honest. I had really no problems with the menus. They're pretty easy for me to follow. But like I said, a lot of this stuff is really just about style preference. But the bottom line here for me is the Jay-Z influence is a plus on the presentation. I like the camera angles, and the overall in-game look is sharp. But the commentating is a huge part of this category. So now I still like Clark Kellogg, Steve Kerr, and Kevin Harlan, but they aren't as good as they have been in the past. So that brought the score down a little bit for me. This game has a ton of features, and I love the My Team feature. It's definitely a spinoff from EA's Ultimate Team and the FIFA series, the Madden series, and pretty much a lot of the EA games. But I think the currency system and the whole road to the playoffs mode kind of gives it its own flair. So, I mean, basically in the road to the playoffs, you're trying to ascend to the #1 seed in the playoffs. And you get to play a lot of other different types of games within My Team to earn VC, because VC is pretty much everything in the game. That's how you upgrade your My Player and pretty much buy everything. Now, if you're offline, you'll see that VC is replaced with skill points. But if you're online, you're going to be using VC and it's stored online. Now, if you take a look at My Career, basically My Player has evolved into My Career. My Career is pretty much this is like the biggest mode that most everybody plays. If you follow my channel, of course, you've seen the Prophet Malik Knight MK99, and yes, he is returning. So y'all, please be patient with me. A lot of videos, a lot of requests out there, but the My Career aspect of this game is awesome. And believe it or not, I didn't even actually used to like these whole My Player things and all that. I was strictly an association person, but 2K has consistently evolved this mode, and I mean, man, I'm on board with it at this point. I mean, you start off in the rookie challenge after you create your guy. However you playing that pretty much dictates where you get drafted. You have pre-draft interviews where you kind of get a whole role-playing aspect to determine where you're going to go in the draft. Once that happens, then you go through your drills. But man, now this year you can customize pre-game rituals, customize the outfits that you wear coming to the arena on the blacktop. If you play on the blacktop, it's a ton of stuff to do here in My Play. I mean, it is really, it'll grab you and you'll really be deep into it. awesome aspect of the game. Now the customization aspect, the creative player options are just slightly, barely improved, but it's really not enough here, man. To be honest, it's time for 2K to use something like Game Face, which is what EA uses, or Creation Center, a team builder, something EA uses. A lot of people, you know, do the whole fighting with 2K and EA back and forth. In a lot of instances, 2K does have an edge, but there's really no disputing that EA has a big edge when it comes to customization, and 2K really needs to catch up on that aspect. So that's just one small thing. Association was, there was really nothing wrong with it to begin with, so I'm glad that they didn't tinker with much of it. I mean, it would have been nice to have something big hit association mode, but they didn't. They kind of just tweaked things, tweaking the draft logic, tweaking, giving you more control over simulation if you choose to do that. Definitely that's there. The blacktop I really enjoy, and that's something different for me too, because I never used to like that either. But the blacktop gives you a nice 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5 action with anybody in the game, including your mod player, and you earn VC for that, so that's hot. The create a legend is pretty much the mod player for people that's too lazy to create a player, more or less. You get to pick a guy that's already on the game and take him up through the same type of experience. What is bananas is the 2K shoes aspect. I mean, man, when they tell you can create your own shoe, I mean, we're talking about over 40 layers you can use to just almost create just about anything you can think of. Nike, Adidas, like I said, Spalding, Under Armour, Converse, Reebok. It's out there. Even the generic 2K brand, there's even so many options. You can make those look good. But what really takes it to the next level is that when you do something with a Nike ID shoe, you can upload that to Nike's website and have the shoe made and sent to you in real life. Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. It'll really happen. So that's hot. 2K shares are also back, which is cool because there's no college hoops game. So if you want to like create a draft class, upload that, import that draft class into your association, you can do that. That was there last year, so it's back. Now the Legends teams, there's really only one new team added. Allen Iverson's 2000-2001 76ers team. We love that, right? But there are some glaring omissions. The 2000-2001 Sacramento Kings team does not have Chris Webber. The Lakers teams in the mid-'80s does not have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And the 76-77 Sixers and the 84-85 76ers team does not have Dr. J. I think that's kind of peculiar. I'm not sure if they are coming in a DLC package, which we haven't heard or been announced as of yet. But that's kind of out there. I don't know what to make of that, but hey. You do have the Dream Team and Team USA, which is cool from a novelty aspect, but you can't take Charles Barkley, who is the biggest addition to the Dream Team to the whole game, period, in terms of Legends. You can't take him off of there and put him anywhere else. So he can only play on the Dream Team. So I don't really like that, but to have him is pretty hot. The bottom line here, though, the options are aplenty. The My Player is stellar. My Team is great. There's really a treasure chest of just options here, just nuts. You know, it's a few little things here that keeps it from being absolutely perfect, but as it is, it's pretty damn hot. As a bonus to the pre-ordering, if you pre-ordered the game, you also got the NBA All-Star Weekend. It's decent from a novelty aspect, but the dunk contest is hella hard. You know, it can't be too easy. And I think that it'll be cool in the middle of your association. So if you get invited to the All-Star game, because if you have it on your system, when you play in your association, when the All-Star weekend comes around, it kicks in, you get the chance to play it. But I really can't see myself, you know, just firing it up and saying, hey, I'm just going to play it in a one-off situation. It's nice to have it as a novelty act, but not really something that just really blows me away. But it doesn't hurt the options packaging.
Johnson kicks to McKee.
NBA 2K13 is ridiculously good. It really is. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. There's a few things that I would tweak, a few things that I would add, a few things I expect to be addressed in regards to patches. I ain't even bother to mention them because I figure they're going to be fixed, okay? If they're not, you'll hear about it later on. But at this point, I mean, you got amazing gameplay. solid depth and options. But it's true, the meat is really in the gameplay. It's really awesome, and you just really need to own this game. It's a 9 out of 10. I appreciate y'all watching, man. Subscribe, follow. I apologize for this long ass review, but the game is pretty in depth. Like I said, appreciate you watching. Follow. Peace.